in excess of 270 miles an hour, covering the quarter-mile distance in less than 6 seconds. Drag racing from the NHRA. Indianapolis, Indiana, known as the star of the snow belt, the capital city of the Hoosier State, Indianapolis provides the resident and visitor alike with a visual variety not likely to be equaled. From the memories of a time gone by to the dramatic modern skyline, Indianapolis attracts attention. It is a major center of sports, a home for the arts, a site of high-tech industry, home to a dozen colleges and universities, and the second largest medical school in the United States. And once a year, this energetic community's attention is focused west of the city on the world's largest drag race. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland. Welcome to Indianapolis Raceway Park in the 32nd Annual U.S. Nationals. There's over $1 million in prize money and awards that will be distributed at the end of this event. This race consistently brings the finest performances of the year to the forefront, and this year is no exception. There have been record-shattering runs in all three of our professional categories. For more information on this, let's join my good friend, Steve Evans.
Thank you, Dave. I'm headed down to the other end of the racetrack because second round action is about to begin. And how about this huge crowd, huh? They are buzzing with excitement over the performances they have seen this weekend. Simply incredible. In fact, some of the numbers are almost science fiction. It all started in qualifying when Darrell Gwynn, 24 years of age, Miami, Florida, became the quickest top fuel driver in the history of drag racing, 5.34 seconds. Earlier today in round one action, he defeated Gary Ormsby and in the process backed up that record. He seemed a little surprised when I talked to him.
I wasn't concentrating on that record. Honestly, I wasn't. We're just trying to get down this racetrack 4 times in a row today. That's all it's going to take is some low 40s, mid 40s to win this race. And by God, that's what we're trying to do.
Another milestone was reached in Pro Stock Eliminator. Bob Glidden, driving his Ford Thunderbird, set the record at 7.37 seconds elapsed time during qualifying and needed the 1% backup. Glidden from nearby Whiteland, Indiana, is the winningest racer ever in NHRA competition. The backup came in the first round against the Camaro of Gordy Rivera. The race itself was decided on the starting line when Rivera left too soon and red-lighted. Glidden ran 7.42 seconds and had his record.
I have some good news for you, Bob Glidden. Not only did you win in the first round, you backed up your 7:37 record with a 7:42.
It's about time. We've been really working hard to do that.
If you're going to make this last-ditch charge for that world title, you need all the bonus points you can get, too.
Absolutely. Warren gained 200 points on us in the Winston chase. By setting the speed record, we had to back up the ET. I'd like to set the speed record here, but I don't know if we can do that.
You got 3 more rounds, maybe.
I hope we've got 3 more. We need to win 3 more of these things.
Good job, the new record holder.
The other half of the Pro Stock record was set by Warren Johnson, driving his Oldsmobile to the fastest speed ever, over 190 miles an hour. Kenny Bernstein left his mark on the record book during qualifying. Bernstein drove to the quickest and fastest run ever by a funny car, 5.50 seconds at over 271 miles an hour. That brings us to the second round of Top Fuel Eliminator. The first 2 cars we see, Dick LaHaye in the near lane and Dan Pastorini in the far lane. Both cars making some 3,000 horsepower each, doing the burnout, designed to heat up those tires, get them ready for their assault on the quarter mile. 44-year-old Dick LaHaye advanced to this race by defeating Jack Revell in the first round, while 37-year-old Dan Pastorini beat Connie Coletta. Pastorini, the former NFL quarterback, making his mark in the top fuel ranks as he has won his first NHRA championship earlier this season when he won the Southern Nationals at Atlanta, Georgia. Dick LaHaye has been in the runner-up spot 3 times thus far this season, the Summer Nationals, the Grand Nationals, and the North Star Nationals. Both cars inching into the staging beams. A good start for both drivers, and it's a close race. LaHaye beginning to pull ahead, and at the finish line, Dick LaHaye wins it 5.45 seconds. His speed 258 miles an hour, a very close 5:51 for Dan Pastorini. Both drivers left the starting line almost simultaneously. A very slight advantage appears to go to LaHaye. Then Pastorini pulls up right alongside. By mid-track, it is anybody's race, too close to call. Then the horsepower advantage of Dick LaHaye comes into play, and LaHaye wins it.
Well, Dick LaHaye starting to lower his elapsed times down into a zone where he could be a real threat to win this. Dick, a very nice 5:45 against Dan Pastorini.
Oh, thank you very much, Steve. We was a little concerned on that first round, and it ran 51, but it ran on 7 cylinders, and I guess it ran on 8 that time, and we put a little clutch in it, and it worked just fine.
Our next pair of cars features the young man we met just a few moments ago. 24-year-old Darrell Gwynn of Miami, Florida, is the new record holder, the quickest man in all of drag racing at 5.34 seconds. This is a family operation. His dad, Jerry, builds the engines. He is a former world champion in his own right. Darrell Gwynn won a world championship when he was driving a top alcohol dragster. He took that elapsed time record away from this man, Gary Beck of Hemet, California. Beck is a 3-time U.S. Nationals champion. He won the title back in 1972, again in 73, then picked it up 10 years later in 1983. Beck losing his record to the man he is racing against here in round number 2, Darrell Gwynn. Beck in the far lane. Gwynn staging in the near lane. A great start from both drivers. And it is Darrell Gwynn beginning to pull ahead, and by over a car length, Darrell Gwynn advances into the semifinal. His elapsed time, 5.40 seconds. His speed over 269 miles an hour. The 1986 U.S. Nationals is being brought to you by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And by Motorcraft, quality products for all makes of cars and trucks. Motorcraft exceeds the need. This man, Don Garlits, a legend in drag racing, in his unprecedented attempt to secure a 3rd consecutive U.S. Nationals Top Fuel title, is coming up next. Back at the U.S. Nationals, lots of work going on in the Dick LaHaye pit area. His crew chief is his daughter, Kim LaHaye. There we see her working on the clutch assembly, getting that car ready to race against Darrell Gwynn in the next round. Here we have on the starting line, Big Daddy Don Garlits. His streamlined dragster, the latest in a long series of top fuel cars since the mid-50s. Don Garlits is concentrated exclusively on top fuel racing and is on the leading edge of technology. That innovative spirit let Garlits be the first man ever over 270 miles an hour. In round number 1 here, he beat the number 2 qualifier, Earl Whiting. He is racing against Gene Snow of Fort Worth, Texas, a former funny car racer. Snow adopting a lot of Garlits' aerodynamic ideas and some of his own, like those brand new canard wings in front of the rear wheels.
Drag racers have known for years that the biggest aerodynamic fault with the top fuel dragster are the huge exposed rear tires. Well, in round 1 this morning at the U.S. Nationals, Gene Snow and crew debuted some new devices. It's a canard ground effects wing, one on either side of the car, just forward of the rear tires. Essentially, it works this way. Air traveling through here, instead of hitting the tire, is now directed this way, and that forms a low pressure area in here, and that means it'll help pull the car down and stick it onto the racetrack a little bit better. Now also, air flowing up in this direction forces it over the top of the tire. They feel that if any air is hitting the bottom half of the tire, that it could create lift and again create some traction problems. So that's essentially what this very simple device will do. It'll seal right onto the pavement eventually when they come up with some kind of a spring-loaded device. Now this is on the ground, okay, when the car is sitting still, but as it goes and the tires grow, it comes up. So they'll try to cure that with the next design model.
Steve, we'll see how it works in just a moment. Gene Snow in the near lane. It is Don Garlits in the far lane, but some problems apparently with Snow. Starter Buster Couch giving him the word. Shut it off. Something coming out of the motor on the line. And Don Garlits has the break of the race thus far. It is a single run for him. He doesn't back off of it, though. All the way through the quarter mile. Don Garlits, 5.53 seconds. at 258 miles an hour. The reason for the hard run, the man with the lowest elapsed time of the previous round gets the lane choice. Gene Snow taking off his helmet, obviously disappointed, having just watched Don Garlits take the single for the victory in round number 2.
Well, for Don Garlits, it's a 5:53 on a solo pass, but Don, it looked like a little oil coming out of it.
Yeah, we might have nipped one.
A big deal.
Just put new engines in. That's the way this game's played. You have to.
Yeah. You know, you've been struggling a little bit for you, coming off the win at Brainerd and in here. I know you've been frustrated not getting those 540s and 30s like maybe some of the other people are.
Well, what can I tell you? I don't know what's wrong with it. I mean, we're doing everything we can.
7 times Don Garlits has been in the winner's circle at the Nationals, but at this 32nd annual running thus far, things aren't going too well. Here's the 1984 world champion, Joe Amato, finishing second to Don Garlits last season. In round number 1, Amato from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, defeated Shirley Muldowney. Joe is racing against a young man from Laverne, California. He is a fireman. He is on his first full season of championship racing. This is Ray Stutz, who defeated Eddie Hill in the first round. Stutz raises exotic snakes as a hobby. He then sells them to help support his Top Fuel racing program. Amato with a slight advantage off the starting line. Stutz trying to hang close, but it is Amato at the finish. 5.50 seconds. His wife Jerry pleased with that performance. His speed over 260 miles an hour. That sets up the semifinal round as Don Garlits will be racing Joe Amato, with Amato having the all-important lane choice. In the second pair, it is Dick LaHaye against Darrell Gwynn, the record-holding Gwynn having lane choice in that race. It's time now for round number 2 of Funny Car Eliminator. John Force driving the Chevy Cavalier-bodied car against Mike Dunn at the wheel of the Oldsmobile Forenza. The funny cars using an engine very similar to their counterparts in Top Fuel racing with some 3,000 horsepower on tap. John Force defeated the father of Mike Dunn, Jim Dunn, in round number 1, while Mike Dunn defeated the 1984 U.S. Nationals champion, Jim Head, in his first round race. The largest crowd in U.S. Nationals history jammed into Indianapolis Raceway Park watching our funny cars complete their burnout procedures. Meantime, Steve Evans is with Joe Amato.
Joe Amato continues to whittle away at that elapsed time, and Joe, you dropped it down to a 5:50.
Well, Steve, we've been 5:50 every run for about the last 7. You know, we got lane choice on Garlits, so it's going to be tough.
I was going to tell you that, and you already knew.
Well, I watched what he ran. You know, it was very critical here because track conditions are, both lanes are pretty even, but anything could happen. Somebody could oil it down, and, you know, you need to have the advantage. So psychologically, that's going to play on Garlits a little bit. You know, he's been real lucky. The first round he was lucky, that round he was lucky, and he's got that racing luck. We're going to have to pick it up this run and just put it to him.
Joe Amato obviously concerned about Don Garlits, even though Garlits is not running as well as he would like. In the near lane, 29-year-old Mike Dunn. In the far lane, John Force. Don't forget, Force is the man that beat Dunn's father in the first round. There may be a bit of family honor at stake in this race against John Force. And it is Dunn out first. Dunn appears to be pulling away, and does, by a carling. Mike Dunn wins for his car owner, Joe Pisano, as John Force losing here in round number 2 to Dunn's outstanding 574 at 257 miles an hour. As we watch it again in slow motion, you can see that Mike Dunn had the advantage by about a blink of an eye. That translates into nearly a 1/10 of a second. He had the head start on the starting line over John Force. As they moved down track, Mike Dunn slowly extended that lead until they reached the finish line, 1,320 feet away. He had moved to a car-length lead and advanced into the semifinal round of Funny Car.
Well, this young man should get a pat on the back from car owner Joe Pisano, a 900th hole shot. What a drag race, 574.
Good, yeah, it was a good run. We finally got rid of the shake off the concrete, and that helped it out. We could run low gear out, and she stepped right up. It was a good run. I got to give credit to Joe Pisano and Gary Slusher. They did a good job tuning the motor up that time.
Indeed, John Force went at 576, but it wasn't as close as it should have been due to your good driving.
Well, yeah, I just my foot must have slipped and hit it right on time. I never did see him, but I just seen him right in the lights. You know, it is a good drag race. We're just happy to be here.
Happy to have you back.
Thank you, Steve.
Mike Dunn out of the sport for a couple of years, now driving for Joe Pisano. Back on the starting line, the thundering sounds of the Candies and Hughes car with Mark Oswald driving. His competition, the man in the far lane, is Ed McCulloch from Hemet, California, who beat Rocky Epperly in round number 1, while Mark Oswald advanced by beating Scott Galetta. Oswald was the 1984 world champion, but the team ran into a series of problems last season that took him out of the top 10 at the end of the year. This season, the team started slowly, but they've come on strong the last half of the year, winning the Spring Nationals and the Mile High title. McCulloch in the far lane, Oswald in the near lane. Oswald pulls ahead. He extends his lead and takes a big win. The performance is definitely with the Candies and Hughes team. 5.64 seconds. His speed, 260 miles an hour as he advances into the semis. There may be some problems in the Darrell Gwynn pit area. They are changing a clutch, something that professional drag racers don't like to do in the heat of competition. More funny car racing in just a moment. Second annual U.S. Nationals, and there is trouble in Garlett's land. Don Garlitz and his crew have totally dismantled the Top Fuel dragster, trying to find that elusive problem that has caused Don Garlitz all of his grief. They have taken the engine apart, they have taken the rear end apart, the transmission, the clutch. They're trying to find the problem, while on the starting line, this man is the dominant force in funny car racing. Kenny Bernstein racing against Jim White. The big story here is Bernstein, the leading innovator in all of funny car racing, established during qualifying an elapsed time of 5.50 seconds and a speed over 271 miles an hour, which is some 6 miles an hour faster than the previous fastest speed ever by a funny car. In round number 1, Bernstein defeated Brad Tuttle, while his competition from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Jim White, upset the defending champion John Lombardo at the wheel of the Blue Max. You know White has got to be thinking about that car next to him. It carries something no other car has. In fact, no one knows what it is, because when the body is up, it is covered by the terrible towel. A trick of the crew of Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein with the advantage off the starting line, and look at him pull away from Jim White. His elapsed time, 5.65 seconds. His speed, 258 miles an hour. So Kenny Bernstein advances to the semifinals. Well, you're not seeing double here. This is really Billy Meyer. Normally, his car carries a Mustang body, but in qualifying, Billy Meyer had a tremendous supercharger explosion that demolished that fiberglass body. He borrowed this Ford Tempo body from Kenny Bernstein. His crew worked all night long to remount the body, and now he is in competition in round number 2 against Johnny West, driving for Roland Leong. West, on his first full season of NHRA championship competition at the wheel of Roland Leong's Dodge Daytona, defeated Steve Hodkinson in round number 1, while Billy Meyer defeated John Martin. Yes, that's what his car used to look like in qualifying. Meyer suffered what every driver fears, a huge engine explosion in fire, the body blasted into hundreds of pieces, the car running over the parts, Meyer fighting for control. As we have seen so often, Meyer brought the car to a safe stop, climbed out, then walked away from this horrendous explosion.
It definitely, did major damage and stuff, and if we had gotten a different car, we would have had to requalify. However, with the rules, just by keeping the same car and changing bodies, we stayed qualified after that run. That's with, Kenny Bernstein's help, that's what we elected to do.
Meyer continuing in competition against Johnny West through the help of Kenny Bernstein, who just beat Jim White. Steve?
The funny car body has not yet come up on Kenny Bernstein's car. The reason is the Candies and Hughes crew is still down here. We've told you the story before about the secret towel. Well, they can't run with that on. And this crew had the class and the sportsmanship to say, hey, don't lift the body. He doesn't want us to see something. And that's what's going on here. Kenny Bernstein hopefully will exit the roof of the automobile. He may not even do that. Yep, here he comes. I'll tell you, that was an interesting gesture on the part of the Candies and Hughes car, telling the turnaround guys not to lift the body. So Kenny Bernstein is out of the car, a fine 565. I'm sure he's very pleased with that, but intends to run a little bit quicker as the afternoon goes on.
Steve, maybe someday we'll find out what's under that towel. Here in the near lane, Billy Meyer, Johnny West in the far lane. The advantage off the starting line to West, but Meyer's got some horsepower, and he wins the race, but he obviously has some engine problems. More troubles for Billy Meyer. 7.69 seconds, a 249-mile-an-hour blast to put him in the semifinals. At Kenny Bernstein's car, the crew lifting the body. There goes the towel over the top of that unknown part. The semifinal round of Funny Car Eliminator will find Billy Meyer racing against Mark Oswald, with Oswald having the lane choice, while Kenny Bernstein will be racing against Mike Dunn, Bernstein having the lane choice there. Back on the starting line, the sound of the gasoline-burning engines that has become the trademark of the 190-mile-an-hour professional category of Pro Stock Eliminator. Under threatening skies, these two cars are approaching the starting line. We've had a spit or two of rain, but not enough to stop the racing. In this second round pairing, it'll be Don Campanello driving his Chevy Camaro that took him to victory over David Hutchins in round number 1 against Don Beverly driving the Pontiac Firebird that beat Reed Wisnett in the first round. Beverly in the near lane, Campanello in the far lane. These highly exotic race cars, the cream of the crop in the factory hot rods of Pro Stock. The advantage to Don Campanello off the starting line, but he drifts towards the center line. That would disqualify him if he crossed it. It is Don Beverly with the win. 7.58 seconds, 182 miles an hour. Beverly into the semifinals. Our next pair of cars already doing their burnouts on the starting line. In the near lane is Mark Powick. Powick, qualifying for his first ever U.S. Nationals field, came in the number 16 position and upset Joe Lapone Jr. in round number 1. He's racing against the record-holding Oldsmobile Forenza of Warren Johnson over 190 miles an hour. He defeated Sam Giannino in round number 1. Johnson is in the far lane, Powick in the near lane. A Pontiac versus an Oldsmobile in Pro Stock round number 2. Both drivers taking their time about staging. Coming into the staging beams is Johnson. Concentrating on the Christmas tree and a green light for both drivers. And it's a whole shot for Mark Powick. Johnson runs into some problems, and Powick with a big lead and an upset victory. Mark Powick, 7.64 seconds. His speed 180 miles an hour, making his first ever Nationals field and making himself felt in competition. Our next pair, the Chevy Camaro of Rare and Morrison from Arlington, Texas, with their driver Bruce Allen at the wheel. He's racing the Pontiac Firebird of Hurley and Velde. Dempsey Hardy of Vero Beach, Florida, doing the driving. He beat Don Kuntz in round number 1. Bruce Allen beat Jerry Ekman in the first round. Ekman then gave his car over to the care of Steve Evans.
190 miles per hour from a drag racing Pro Stock car. I saw it with my own eyes, and I still find it incredible. After all, these cars don't have a huge oval track to run around and gain that kind of speed, and they don't have nitromethane or superchargers. They do it on gasoline and carburetors. See this beautiful Camaro from California? Well, Bill Orndorff, Jerry Ekman, his driver, and their crew, they're going to denude it for us, and literally it comes apart like a snap-together model. We cheated a little bit and took the fasteners out beforehand. Now, the engines in the field from 1st to 16th probably don't vary more than 20, 30, maybe 40 horsepower. What really counts is the chassis setup on these cars. Now, they weigh 2,350 pounds. That's the minimum weight. They're chrome moly, very sophisticated construction. Now, interesting in the front are these adjustable struts. Now, you can vary the wheel stand of the car right up the starting line. If it doesn't come up at all, then you don't get the necessary weight transfer to put that power to the ground. If it comes up too high, it gets on the wheelie bars and then unloads the rear tire. So the adjustment on these struts is absolutely critical. Now, as far as weight distribution is concerned, you might figure with a drag racing car you'd want a lot in the back. Well, you certainly do. They have moved virtually everything they possibly can legally to the rear of the automobile. These two huge batteries, it takes a lot of voltage to crank a 500 cubic inch engine. They're back here. The fuel cell is back here. The fuel pumps to pump the gasoline up to the carburetors, that's back here. And look at all of this weight. The car really wouldn't meet the rules if they didn't have all of this ballast installed. So all in all, the Pro Stock car, its engine and chassis working together, that are responsible for the kind of records we saw this weekend. They're the most sophisticated and the most expensive cars to build in the sport of NHRA drag racing.
Steve, truly incredible performance out of these full-bodied race cars. The staging procedure just about completed. You hear the RPM starting to come up, and it is Bruce Allen out first. Dempsey Hardy having some problems. Allen continues to extend the lead, and at the finish line it is more than a couple of car lengths for Bruce Allen as he heads down past a very happy Mark Powick.
just can't believe it.
I could hear you whooping and hollering in the car 100 yards away.
What else can I say? I beat one of the best.
You indeed did. Into the semifinals goes Mark Powick.
The upset force in Pro Stock Eliminator, Mark Powick, defeating Joe LaBone Jr. in round 1 and the record holder, Warren Johnson, in the second round. This is Bob Glidden. We saw him set the record at 7.37 seconds, the quickest time ever by a Pro Stock car. He should be racing this man, Butch Leal, at the wheel of the Pontiac Firebird, who defeated Joe Clark in round number 1. But Leal's got mechanical problems. The crew is under the hood. The problems for Leal give Bob Glidden a bye run. You can tell he's going for lane choice. 7.43 seconds at over 189 miles an hour. That carries Glidden into the semifinals against Don Beverly, with Bob Glidden having lane choice. The other pair in the semifinal round of Pro Stock finds Mark Powick, our upset winner thus far, against Bruce Allen. Bruce Allen having the lane choice there. Back in the top fuel pit area, Joe Amato directing the preparation of his car, getting ready for the semifinal race against Don Garlitz, who's had nothing but problems thus far. Top fuel semifinal action in just a moment. Along with Steve Evans, and on the starting line at the U.S. Nationals, Kim LaHaye getting ready to start her dad's top fuel dragster for this semifinal confrontation with Darrell Gwynn. Before that race, let's join Steve Evans.
When you come to one of NHRA's national championship drag races, you're going to find a lot of things to see and do besides sit in the grandstand and watch the drag racing. That's always good, but these events are really more of a performance fair, complete with their own midway. They call it the manufacturer's midway. There's over 90 products on display here, with representatives from the various factories on hand to answer the racers' questions, try to solve their problems. The fans are welcome here as well, though. In fact, they get the same treatment as the competitors. So if you're just a little bit car crazy, I think you'll find yourself spending a lot of time in the manufacturer's midway. It's kind of a celebration of acceleration.
And Steve, you can bet that one of those represented on Manufacturer's Midway, Suzuki, had all their people watching when their world champion rider Terry Vance was in the final of Pro Stock motorcycle competition. Vance in the near lane, Mike Keat in the far lane. It was a side-by-side race until the middle of the course when Mike Keat exploded an engine, Terry Vance taking the win. The motorcycle race was the last of a series of sportsman competitions conducted earlier. Our congratulations to Eldon Slick, top alcohol dragster winner, Frank Menzo winning alcohol funny car competition, John Lingenfelter, your super gas champ Chip Gerst, super stock Joe Lampkin, and stock eliminator Gary Long, all winners at this 32nd annual U.S. Nationals. On the starting line, Jerry Gwynn giving his son Darrell a handshake, telling him how he thinks he ought to leave the starting line against Dick LaHaye. LaHaye's performance has been improving throughout eliminations, while Darrell Gwynn has noticed a slight drop in his elapsed time. Gwynn has put in a new clutch assembly for this race, and that could be a very critical factor. As LaHaye, consistent in his elapsed times, consistent in his driving, Gwynn has got a question mark. How will that clutch assembly perform against Dick LaHaye? LaHaye with nearly a car length advantage at mid-course, but look at Darrell Gwynn by just a few inches. A disappointed Kim LaHaye, an overjoyed crew for Darrell Gwynn. The elapsed time, 5.43 seconds for Gwynn, a 5:45 for Dick LaHaye. The advantage off the starting line was clearly that to Dick LaHaye. His car accelerated faster, pulled ahead of Darrell Gwynn, but the race was not over at that point. Darrell Gwynn recovering, holding the throttle down as they go towards the finish line, and the car gradually inching ahead until Darrell Gwynn moves to the final.
For the second year in a row, Darrell Gwynn goes into the U.S. Nationals top fuel final. You had to be concerned changing that clutch.
We changed clutch, we changed tires, we hopped her up a little bit, and it worked out for us okay.
What a drag race, 5:43 to Dick LaHaye's 5:45.
I knew he was right there the whole time, and I knew he'd be right there when I left the starting line, because he is one heck of a driver, and I knew I had my work cut out for me.
Could you see him all the way down the racetrack?
All the way to the last light.
Could you hear him?
I could hear him, see him, everything.
Okay, congratulations going into that final.
A very happy Darrell Gwynn, and you just saw the quickest side-by-side race in the history of drag racing. Here is Don Garlitz under his canopy, approaching the starting line. The crew checking the car over, turning on the onboard computer. He's racing against Joe Amato in the near lane. Garlitz has had nothing but problems throughout this entire race, qualified in the number 10 position and is now in the semifinals. He pulls ahead of Joe Amato and is continuing to lead him at the finish line. A whopping victory for Don Garland. Look at the elapsed time. 5.40 seconds, 257 miles an hour for the second year in a row. Don Garland races Darrell Gwynn, and Don Garland has lane choice in the Top Fuel final. Back in the pit area, work going on Mike Dunn's car, getting it ready for the semifinal round of Funny Car Eliminator. We'll be right back to the U.S. Nationals. Down the return road to go back to the pits to prepare for the final race against Darrell Gwynn. 54-year-old Don Garlitz against 24-year-old Darrell Gwynn. Garlitz going for his third consecutive Top Fuel title at the U.S. Nationals. Our semifinal round of Pro Stock Eliminator. Bruce Allen in the far lane would love to become a big winner for the second time this week. Earlier at this event, he won the Mr. Gasket Pro Stock Challenge, beating Butch Leal in the final round of the 8-car field made up of the quickest qualifiers all season long. Bruce Allen found himself in the finals against the man he faced 1 year ago, Butch Leal. They came into the staging beams, and Allen had a great start in the far lane. Allen continued on to victory as he did a year ago and claimed the $15,000 first prize in the Mr. Gasket Pro Stock Challenge.
Good things come in pairs, they say, Bruce. 2 years in a row, you've won the Mr. Gasket Pro Stock Challenge, this time with a 749.
Oh, boy, that was a great run. That was racing Butch again. You know, it makes you be ready. You have to go out there and do a good job.
He left first by about 200, they tell us.
Yeah, Butch is just a good leader. I'm doing good to stay that close to him, believe me.
In the semifinals at the U.S. Nationals, Bruce Allen is racing against the man that has claimed 2 upset victories, Mark Powick in the near lane. Powick driving the Pontiac Firebird right alongside Bruce Allen. But Allen in the Rare Morrison Camaro begins to extend the lead to victory and takes the win to move into the finals. 7.54 seconds. His speed 182 miles an hour. On the starting line, our next pair in the near lane, it is Don Beverly with the Pontiac Firebird racing against the record-holding Ford Thunderbird of Bob Glidden. While these cars may be very similar as far as the rules go, the development of horsepower and the ability to put it to the ground is obviously in favor of Bob Glidden in this race. That has got to be on the mind of Don Beverly as he completes his staging procedure to go off against the record-holding Ford Thunderbird. Glidden staging very slowly, taking his time about getting into the staging beam. He's there, the switch is thrown, and it's a green light start for Glidden and Beverly. A picture-perfect run thus far for Bob Glidden. He extends his lead, and the Ford Thunderbird comes home the winner. His elapsed time, 7.41 seconds, 189 miles an hour. Let's go back and look again. Not at the race, but at the high five between Rusty and Billy Glidden. Up in the air, and the hand slap indicating their support of their dad as he goes into the finals against Bruce Allen, with Bob Glidden having the lane choice in the Pro Stock Finals at the U.S. Nationals. On the starting line, it is semifinal round time for Funny Car Eliminator. In the near lane, it's Kenny Bernstein. In the far lane, Mike Dunn driving for Joe Pisano. Dunn is the dark horse in this race, out of the sport for a couple of years, coming back at the start of the season, intermittently driving for Joe Pisano, who doesn't race all that much to start with. For Kenny Bernstein, the reigning world champion, and the advantage to Bernstein. But look at Dunn, he's staying with him. And then at the finish, and there's problems for Kenny Bernstein. The car slows, and Joe Pisano is thrilled. Mike Dunn's in the finals. Pisano can't believe it. And Kenny Bernstein had some mechanical problems. The time, 5:84 for Mike Dunn. The dominant force in funny car racing is out. Kenny Bernstein, as he approached the finish line, had mechanical problems. You see the car slowing, and Mike Dunn streaks across the finish line to take the win.
Well, there is the story of Kenny Bernstein's demise. It appears that a spark plug shot right out of the engine and up through the body, killed at least one cylinder, and Kenny, you were ahead.
Oh yeah, it was fine. Mike did a good job on the starting line. Took that gamble with a 480 live, but the Budweiser King Motorcraft tempo was already by him. Everything was fine. All of a sudden, it went very sour. Went south. It had an explosion out one side and then the other, and it was over with. I saw fire at the bottom, and that was it.
On the starting line, it is Billy Meyer using the body he borrowed from Kenny Bernstein. He is in the far lane. racing against the team of Candies and Hughes. That car, driven by Mark Oswald, has been in the winner's circle twice thus far this season, and with Bernstein out of competition, is got to be considered a strong favorite to move into the championship. A great start for both cars, Meyer and Oswald. Oswald smoking the tires, Meyer's ahead, and Meyer pulls off the upset. The crew just overjoyed. All the work pays off. 582, 244 miles an hour. Oswald at 5.80, but he smoked the tires, and the starting line advantage that was gained by Billy Meyer by the whole shot. He left the starting line just a fraction of a second ahead of Mark Oswald. There you see the tire smoke. That cost Oswald the race. As they get down towards the finish line, Meyer has some engine problems, but he still wins.
You know, in some ways, it's kind of an unlikely final after your explosion in qualifying and Mike Dunn, who's never really enjoyed a day like this.
Actually, after my whole year, it's unlikely final. But that's just what happens if you keep trying.
Nobody tries harder than Billy Meyer.
There's lots of work facing Meyer and his crew as they return to the pit area to get ready for the funny car final. It'll be Mike Dunn against Billy Meyer, with Meyer having lane choice. Back in Don Garland's pits, his daughters Donna and Galen watching intently as the crew, headed up by Herb Park, prepares the dragster for the finals against Darrell Gwynn at the U.S. Nationals. 800 race cars. It has come down to 6 finalists. This is Pro Stock Eliminator. The final round, Chevrolet against Ford. The record-holding Ford Thunderbird of Bob Glidden in the far lane. In the near lane, the Chevy Camaro, owned by David Rare and Buddy Morrison, and driven by Bruce Allen. The two drivers taking their time about staging. Once they roll the car forward and light the staging beams, the starter knows they are ready to race. Glidden creeping forward. Now Bruce Allen inches forward, and it is a whole shot by Bruce Allen. A tremendous start for Allen. He's got the advantage over Bob Glidden. But Glidden tracks him down and wins at the finish line. His 7th U.S. Nationals title. Bob Glidden out of Whiteland, Indiana. His crew just overjoyed with the victory. The crowd responding to the hometown win. You see in replay, Bruce Allen gets the advantage by nearly a 1/10 of a second off the starting line. As they head down track, Allen continues to maintain his lead. He needed that advantage off the starting line. But about 3/4 of the way down the track, you just saw a puff of smoke. Mechanical problems set in for Bruce Allen, allowing Bob Glidden to pull ahead and take the big win.
Bob Glidden, Whiteland, Indiana, his 49th NHRA career Pro Stock victory. Congratulations, a 750 to his 770, but he looked like he had the jump on you a little bit.
Yeah, we shook the tires really bad on the starting line, and then it got worse on out. I just got out of the throttle slightly and back in it, and something happened to Bruce.
This was your 10th consecutive final round here. You didn't win them all, but most of them. Why one race you can be so successful?
I think we try a lot harder at this race. This week, we've been home every night, thrashing, trying to squeeze another 100th or 200ths out. And boy, it paid off.
Got the record, everything.
I got the ET record. Warren ended up with a speed record, but that's okay. We gained on him.
Congratulations again.
Bob Glidden, the all-time winningest driver in NHRA drag racing history. On the starting line, the engines are running for our funny car final. Joe Pisano directing his driver Mike Dunn. What a surprise to see Mike Dunn in the final. And Joe Pisano avoiding that raging bull that is his funny car. Mike Dunn is racing against Billy Meyer. No one has worked harder at this race than Meyer and his entire crew. Exploding that car earlier in qualifying, they had a lot of work just to get the body to match up that he borrowed from Kenny Bernstein. But all that work is paid off. Here he is in the final against Mike Dunn. And Dunn smokes the tires. The race is wired. But look, there's problems with Billy Meyer. And Mike Dunn goes on to take the win. And what an upset. The whole crew congratulating Joe Pisano, his first ever U.S. Nationals win, and for Mike Dunn, his 2nd national event victory in his career. But it nearly did not come to pass. Dunn smoking the tires off the starting line. The race could have been over at that point, but Meyer had mechanical problems, a driveline failure. His car slowed to a stop, and Mike Dunn streaked on unopposed to the finish line to take the funny car title at the 32nd annual U.S. Nationals.
You know, they put so much emphasis on the race cars of today. In my opinion, you, Mike Dunn, won this race virtually yourself today in your driving. You never gave up on that final with Billy. What a race.
Oh, I know. I always smoked the tires. I thought he had me. And sometimes you're in an advantage when you smoke the tires first if the other guy smokes, because he doesn't know what I'm doing. I seen him get in trouble, and I got back in it, and the car recovered, which was, a good thing. And we went on by and won the race, and feels good.
The lead changed hands a couple of times, and that doesn't happen too often in a drag race.
Oh, yeah, that's when it's exciting, when you get them lead changes going down the track. It was a very good race. I got to give credit to Joe Paisano and Gary Slesher and the rest of the crew. They did a great job, and this is a lot. I like getting TV coverage this way better than the other way, let me tell you.
You first came to this race, when you were about 13, pitting for your father?
Yeah, it was 1969, the U.S. Nationals. I think I was about 13 years old when they were on the front motor dragsters, John Mulligan, Don Perdome, my dad, and all the rest of them. That was the first time I've been here.
Great victory.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Mike Dunn referring to the previous coverage on Diamond V Sports, where we saw him on fire and upside down. Our congratulations to Mike Dunn, Joe Pisano, and the entire crew. Big Daddy is ready. Can he make it 3 in a row? We'll find out in just a moment when we return to the U.S. Nationals. 24-year-old Darrell Gwynn against 54-year-old Don Garlits. A rematch of this same race 1 year ago. Garlits historically has been on the leading edge of technology. He has been the performance leader for nearly 30 years in top fuel racing, but he is being challenged, and challenged strongly, by the young man from his home state of Florida. Darrell Gwynn, in fact, has run even quicker than Garlits. Steve had a chance to talk to both drivers before this race.
Ever since Darrell Gwynn ran his 272 at Englishtown, you've kind of dogged the kid. Even in qualifying, you kind of hang back, hoping to run alongside Darrell Gwynn as much as you can. Why?
Well, I just always like, if you've got a real fast car out there, it's good to always qualify with them, because then you know what you're doing. It serves no purpose to qualify with a real slow car.
So it's nothing personal at all?
No, it's just, it's a nice, he has set a nice standard, and we're shooting for it. I mean, that's what causes the sport to go forward.
Ever since you ran your 272 at Englishtown, Big Daddy's kind of dogged you. I mean, he waits at the back of the line trying to qualify with you. What's to all of that from your side of it?
Well, I can see his side. I mean, he is the king. He's the hero. I mean, he is the man to beat, and I'm just shooting for him. That's all there is to it.
So there's nothing personal between the two of you?
No, I must say it's a good thing we're friends, because we got one heck of a rivalry going right now.
And that rivalry is evidenced on the starting line. Don Garlits has lane choice. He took the near lane, moving Gwynn over into the far lane, where we saw Mike Dunn smoke the tires just a bit earlier. Every good run by Darrell Gwynn has been in the lane nearest the camera. Now, Don Garlits sits in that lane, concentrating on the starting line. Garlits trying for the 3rd consecutive top fuel title in a row. If he achieves it, he will be the first man in history to do so. But Gwynn does not want to contribute to that record performance. A great start. It is Garlits beginning to pull ahead. And at the finish line, Don Garlits, with the quickest run of the race, wins the top fuel title for the 3rd year in a row. Garlits at 5.39 seconds elapsed time. As we watch again, you see Garlits had the advantage at the start. Gwynn tried his best to stay alongside, but his performance fell off just a bit to a 5.44 second elapsed time, and that was just enough to let Garlits pull ahead, and by nearly 1 car length, Don Garlits wins the U.S. Nationals title for the 8th time.
Truly, you are Big Daddy. A 5:39, your 3rd consecutive U.S. Nationals title. No one's ever done it in top fuel.
I had a lot of help today.
You a little stunned here?
Well, we were really running bad, and we just couldn't get a handle on it, and it seemed like when we were at our absolute worst, we just never gave up hope, and the Lord just shined down on us and gave us a good one. He just showed you that you have seen a bona fide 20th century miracle here today.
In what way, Don?
Well, nothing was going right for us. Everything was wrong. And we didn't do anything to the car that should have caused it to just come around like that. All of a sudden, everything just fell into place. I mean, you saw the engine over there. You came over there before the 540. It just wasn't anything left. We were putting a clutch in it. We were putting all pistons, new heads. And then we just, everything just worked out. I mean, I'm stunned.
Tremendous drag race, so just wonderful. And here comes the crew for Big Daddy Don Garlits, crew chief Herb Park, associate Art Malone, wife Pat, both his daughters on board. This is a group that works so hard for this victory.
And we at Diamond P Sports would like to add our congratulations to this man for his incredible performance record. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Indianapolis Raceway Park. The executive producer of Diamond P Sports is Harvey M. Palish, produced and directed by John B. Mullen. The 1986 NHRA US Nationals has been brought to you by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Suzuki, makers of the 1986 Quad Runners, foremost in four-wheeling. Suzuki works like a single moving part. And by Goodyear Eagle high-performance radial tires. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by Gordon Jewelers. Longines watches provided by Gordon's, America's jeweler since 1905. Gordon's Jewelers, where love is in the air. And by Uniden RD9, world's smallest radar detector, top rated for performance by American Trucker Magazine only from Uniden. And by Stetson, the scent that fits the man. Stetson Cologne, a cologne that's easy to wear, hard to resist. Stetson fits. And by Minwax, America's favorite wood finishes. Minwax makes it easy.